The family, once celebrated for promoting faith, discipline, and traditional values, suddenly became the center of a scandal that shocked even longtime viewers of 19 Kids and Counting. And as the years passed, the controversy surrounding Josh Duggar only grew darker, moving far beyond tabloid rumors and becoming a national media firestorm tied to criminal investigations, public outrage, and endless debate about accountability inside the Duggar household. What made the story even more explosive was the growing criticism aimed not only at Josh himself, but also at his parents, Jim Bob Duggar and Michelle Duggar. For years, critics accused the family of hiding serious problems behind a polished television image. Former viewers, online commentators, and even some former supporters began questioning whether the pressure to protect the Duggar brand prevented deeper issues from being addressed earlier. And now, renewed online speculation has fueled claims that Josh may have privately blamed his parents for the way the scandal unfolded publicly, especially after the family's handling of earlier allegations became national news. Some observers believe years of secrecy, internal family control, and intense pressure to maintain a flawless public reputation created an environment where problems were minimized instead of confronted openly. Others argue the situation became far more complicated once reality television fame, media attention, and public scrutiny transformed the Duggars from a private religious family into national celebrities. Because once the scandal exploded into public view, everything changed. Television deals collapsed, public trust disappeared, former fans turned into critics, and the Duggar name became permanently associated with controversy instead of the wholesome image that once defined their brand. Now, years later, the questions still haven't gone away. What really happened behind closed doors? How much responsibility belongs to the parents? Did reality television fame make the situation worse? And could the Duggar family ever recover from the damage caused by one of the most controversial scandals in reality TV history? Tonight, we're diving deep into the allegations, the media storm, the courtroom fallout, and the growing belief that the Duggar family's public image may have hidden fractures that were destined to explode sooner or later. Before the scandals, court cases, and endless headlines, the Duggar family represented something very different to millions of viewers. For years, the family built a massive television empire through hit reality shows like 19 Kids and Counting, presenting themselves as a close-knit, deeply religious household, guided by strict conservative values and unwavering faith. Audiences watched as Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar raised their enormous family under carefully structured rules, modest lifestyles, and traditional beliefs that made them one of the most recognizable families in reality television. To supporters, they were seen as wholesome role models. To critics, they represented an extreme lifestyle hidden behind polished television editing. But behind the scenes, serious allegations involving Josh Duggar had reportedly remained buried for years. And when those allegations resurfaced publicly, everything changed. What had once been treated privately inside the family suddenly became a national controversy, sparking outrage, media investigations, and intense criticism over how the situation had allegedly been handled. Almost overnight, the Duggar image began collapsing in public view. Critics accused the family of secrecy. Others questioned whether reputation and television success had been prioritized over accountability and protection for the victims involved. Then, years later, the controversy escalated even further after Josh Duggar faced separate federal criminal charges unrelated to the earlier molestation allegations, reigniting public scrutiny surrounding the family's past decisions and internal dynamics. As documentaries, interviews, and online discussions continued dissecting the scandal, attention increasingly shifted toward the environment inside the Duggar household itself. How much responsibility belonged to Josh Duggar alone? What role did the family's strict culture allegedly play behind the scenes? And according to growing online speculation and commentary, Some observers believe Josh may have eventually blamed his own parents for aspects of the life that shaped him, and for the public downfall that followed. Whether those claims are true remains heavily debated. But the controversy surrounding the Duggar family continues, generating intense discussion years after the original scandals first shocked viewers around the world. Tonight's video explores the rise of the Duggar empire, the scandals that shattered it, the accusations and public backlash that followed, and the complicated family dynamics that still fuel debate to this day. Long before scandals and investigations began dominating headlines, the Duggar family had already become one of the most recognizable families in American reality television. Through TLC's 19 Kids and Counting, viewers were introduced to a household unlike almost anything seen on mainstream television at the time. A massive family led by Jim Bob Duggar and Michelle Duggar, built around strict religious values, rigid routines, and highly structured family roles. For many audiences, the appeal was immediate. The Duggars appeared organized, disciplined, and deeply committed to faith and family. In an era when reality television often focused on chaos and conflict, the Duggar brand marketed itself as the complete opposite: wholesome, traditional, and morally grounded. And that image proved incredibly successful. As the family's popularity grew, millions of viewers tuned in to watch the daily logistics of raising 19 children under one roof. Everyday routines became television events. Chore schedules, homeschooling, group travel, family meals, and courtship rules all became part of the Duggar media empire. Public fascination with large families played a major role in that success. Many viewers were simply amazed by the scale of the household, how the family managed finances, discipline, education, and daily life with so many children. But beyond curiosity, the show also attracted audiences interested in the family's conservative Christian lifestyle and the strict moral framework they promoted on television. The Duggar parents frequently emphasized ideas like obedience, modesty, purity, and traditional gender roles. Inside the household, structure appeared central to everything. Older children often helped raise younger siblings. Courtship rules were tightly controlled. Romantic relationships operated under parental supervision. Television interviews consistently reinforced the idea that the family functioned through discipline, faith, and unity. To supporters, the Duggars represented stability and old-fashioned values. But critics viewed the situation very differently. Over time, former viewers and online commentators began questioning whether the family's public image was overly controlled, and whether the pressure to maintain perfection prevented honest discussions about problems happening behind the scenes. Some critics argued that the family's teachings surrounding obedience and authority may have created an environment where questioning leadership became difficult. Others pointed to the enormous pressure placed on the children themselves. Because by the height of the show's success, the Duggar name had evolved into something much larger than a family identity. It had become a business. Television contracts, speaking engagements, sponsorship opportunities, book deals, and public appearances all depended heavily on maintaining a carefully protected reputation. The family's image was no longer just personal, it was financially valuable. And according to critics, that changed everything. The stakes surrounding public perception became enormous. Every interview, every television appearance, and every public statement reinforced the same carefully managed narrative: a faithful, disciplined family standing together through every challenge. But as the family's fame expanded, so did scrutiny. Internet critics, former fans, and media commentators increasingly questioned whether reality television had created a culture where appearances mattered more than transparency. Some argued that protecting the Duggar brand may have become a priority powerful enough to influence how sensitive issues were handled privately. And years later, when multiple controversies eventually became public, those earlier concerns suddenly looked very different to many observers. because what once appeared to be an untouchable reality television success story was now being re-examined through a far more critical lens. And for many former viewers, the biggest question became this: how much of the Duggar image had been real, and how much had been carefully managed for the cameras? When past allegations involving Josh Duggar resurfaced publicly, the reaction was immediate and overwhelming. For many longtime viewers of 19 Kids and counting, the controversy shattered the carefully maintained image the family had spent years building on television. Audiences had watched the Duggars present themselves as a model of discipline, faith, and conservative family values. Their public identity centered around morality, modesty, obedience, and religious devotion. So when reports connected to allegations from Josh Duggar's teenage years became widely known, many viewers felt blindsided. The story quickly exploded across television news, entertainment media, blogs, and online discussion forums. Almost overnight, the Duggar family transformed from one of reality television's most recognizable success stories into one of its most controversial. Public debate intensified as people questioned not only Josh Duggar's actions, but also how the family allegedly handled the situation behind closed doors years earlier. Critics argued that the response appeared designed to protect the family's public image, rather than fully acknowledge the seriousness of the allegations. Others defended the family, insisting the incidents had already been privately addressed long before the public learned about them. Supporters pointed to claims that Josh had undergone counseling and religious guidance afterward, arguing that the family believed the matter had been resolved internally. But for many observers, the controversy raised much larger questions about accountability, authority, and the dangers of extreme image control inside highly public religious families. Online backlash intensified rapidly. Former fans began revisiting old interviews, television clips, and public statements from the family, searching for signs they may have overlooked. Social media became flooded with debates over parenting, religious culture, forgiveness, and whether reality television had helped shield serious problems from public scrutiny. At the center of growing criticism were Jim Bob Duggar and Michelle Duggar. Many questioned whether the parents had acted appropriately after first learning about the allegations years earlier. Critics accused the family of prioritizing reputation management over transparency. Others argued the parents were attempting to navigate a deeply personal crisis within the framework of their strict religious beliefs and private family culture. The controversy also generated widespread sympathy for the victims connected to the allegations. Public discussion increasingly focused on how situations involving abuse allegations are often handled inside isolated or highly controlled environments, particularly when public image and religious authority become deeply intertwined. As media coverage intensified, the Duggar family's reputation suffered major damage. The once carefully polished brand built around wholesomeness and morality no longer appeared untouchable. Instead, the family became associated with secrecy, scandal, and ongoing public scrutiny. And as criticism continued growing online, attention increasingly shifted away from reality television entertainment and toward a much more serious question. How much responsibility did the parents bear for the decisions made behind the scenes long before the scandal became public? Years after the first scandal severely damaged the Duggar family's public image, the controversy surrounding Josh Duggar exploded back into national headlines following federal criminal charges involving child sexual abuse material. What had once been viewed by many as a reality television controversy suddenly became a major criminal case, followed closely by national media outlets, online commentators, and millions of viewers across social media. The investigation immediately reignited old criticisms surrounding the family's past decisions, particularly how earlier allegations involving Josh had been handled behind closed doors years earlier. For longtime critics of the Duggar family, The arrest became proof that deeper problems had existed beneath the carefully managed public image all along. And for supporters of the family, the situation became increasingly difficult to defend as disturbing details dominated headlines across the country. Federal investigation and arrest. When federal authorities arrested Josh Duggar, the news spread rapidly across television networks, entertainment media, and online commentary communities. The case instantly became one of the most discussed reality television scandals in recent memory. For years, the Duggar family had built a brand centered around morality, discipline, faith, and conservative family values. Now, those same values were being publicly scrutinized on a national scale. Commentators across YouTube and social media began revisiting older interviews, episodes of the family's television shows, and past public statements made by family members. Many questioned whether warning signs had existed for years. Others focused on how authority and obedience were emphasized inside the family's strict religious culture. The contrast between the Duggar family's public image and the criminal allegations dominating the news cycle created enormous public fascination. And with every new courtroom update, media attention only intensified. Courtroom coverage and media frenzy. As the case moved through federal court, coverage became relentless. News outlets published daily updates analyzing testimony, evidence, legal arguments, and reactions from people connected to the family. YouTube commentary channels began producing hour-long breakdowns, dissecting every development in the case. Some creators focused on the legal proceedings themselves. Others examined the broader culture surrounding the Duggar family and the religious environment tied to their upbringing. Across TikTok and Twitter, clips, reactions, and debates spread constantly. Millions of users discussed whether the Duggar family had spent years prioritizing reputation management over accountability. Online discussions frequently centered around Jim Bob Duggar and Michelle Duggar, with critics questioning decisions made during earlier scandals. Many viewers argued the family's original handling of past allegations now looked even more troubling in hindsight. Meanwhile, supporters of the family pushed back against what they viewed as unfair attempts to blame relatives for the actions of one individual. The internet quickly became divided between outrage, sympathy, speculation, and fierce debate. Few places reflected the intensity of public reaction more than Reddit. Entire discussion threads emerged analyzing courtroom reports, family appearances, and possible tensions behind the scenes. Users speculated constantly about which family members still supported Josh privately and which relatives may have distanced themselves completely. Some online discussions focused heavily on Anna Duggar and the enormous pressure she faced throughout the scandal. Others debated whether certain Duggar siblings had quietly begun separating themselves from the family's public image years earlier. On YouTube, commentary creators gained massive viewership covering the scandal in real time. Reaction videos, live streams, and investigative-style breakdowns generated millions of views as audiences searched for updates and analysis. TikTok users condensed courtroom developments into viral short-form videos, while Twitter debates became increasingly emotional and polarized. For many viewers, the case had evolved beyond one individual. It had become a broader conversation about power, accountability, religious influence, family control, and the dangers of protecting public image at all costs. As media scrutiny intensified, questions surrounding loyalty inside the Duggar family became unavoidable. Observers closely analyzed which family members publicly supported Josh and which remained silent. Every public appearance, statement, or absence sparked new waves of speculation online. Some critics argued the family structure itself discouraged speaking out publicly against relatives. Others believed years of intense public pressure and media attention had placed impossible emotional strain on everyone connected to the scandal. The situation also reignited criticism toward reality television culture itself. Many questioned whether years of filming, private family life for entertainment, had created unhealthy pressures behind the scenes. Former viewers who once admired the family's wholesome image now re-examined old television episodes through an entirely different lens. And as the courtroom proceedings continued making national headlines, one thing became increasingly clear. The Duggar family scandal was no longer just a reality television controversy. It had become a national cultural discussion about accountability, secrecy, influence, and the consequences of protecting image over truth. As the scandals surrounding Josh Duggar continued dominating headlines, a new wave of online speculation began focusing less on courtrooms and more on what may have been happening behind closed doors inside the Duggar family itself. Across social media platforms, YouTube commentary channels, podcasts, and online forums, discussions exploded around one controversial question. Did Josh privately blame his parents for the direction his life ultimately took? No verified public statement ever fully confirmed those claims. Much of the conversation came from internet speculation, anonymous sources, and ongoing debates among critics of the family. But despite the uncertainty, the topic spread rapidly online because many people believed the family's deeply controlled environment played a major role in shaping the crisis that unfolded publicly years later. For years, Jim Bob Duggar and Michelle Duggar had presented themselves as strict protectors of morality, discipline, and faith-based family values. Their television image portrayed a household built around obedience, structure, and religious devotion. But after multiple scandals emerged, critics began re-examining that image entirely. Some online commentators argued the family culture may have prioritized reputation management over confronting serious internal problems directly. According to those critics, maintaining the family's public image sometimes appeared more important than transparency or accountability. And that's where the scapegoat discussions started gaining traction online. Certain critics claimed Josh may have felt abandoned once public outrage intensified, arguing that while he became the face of the scandal, larger questions about parenting decisions, family oversight, and institutional influences were receiving far less attention. Others pointed to the Duggar family's long history of tightly controlling media appearances and public messaging. They argued that years of image management may have created emotional pressure inside the household that outsiders never fully understood. Some commentators even questioned whether the family's strict religious environment discouraged open discussion of difficult issues. Critics debated whether fear of public embarrassment or damaging the family's reputation may have prevented stronger intervention much earlier. Those conversations fueled intense online arguments. Because while some people believed the Duggar parents deserved criticism for how situations were allegedly handled internally, others completely rejected any suggestion that responsibility should be shared. To many observers, the issue remained simple. Regardless of upbringing, family structure, or religious culture, Josh alone remained responsible for his own decisions and actions. That divide created one of the most heated debates surrounding the scandal. On one side were people arguing the family environment may have contributed to secrecy, emotional suppression, and avoidance of accountability. On the other side were critics insisting that blaming the parents too heavily risked minimizing personal responsibility altogether. And as those arguments intensified online, public scrutiny toward the Duggar family only grew stronger. For years, the family had carefully projected unity to millions of television viewers. But now, outsiders began speculating about fractures beneath the surface, possible private disagreements, emotional fallout, and long-term resentment inside the family itself. The internet became consumed with analyzing every interview, every public appearance, and every family statement for signs of tension. Some viewers believed certain family members appeared increasingly distant. Others speculated about disagreements over loyalty, damage control, and public image strategy. And because the Duggar family had spent so many years building a brand centered around togetherness, faith, and discipline, the possibility of internal collapse fascinated the public even more. What once appeared to be one of reality television's most united families now faced growing public perception that deep divisions may have existed behind the scenes all along. And whether those online theories were accurate or exaggerated, the damage to the Duggar image had already become impossible to ignore. The Duggar scandal permanently transformed how audiences viewed reality television families. What once looked like a polished image of faith, discipline, and moral certainty became, for many viewers, a cautionary example of how carefully managed public personas can sometimes hide far more complicated realities behind closed doors. For years, the Duggar brand had been built around the idea of structure, obedience, and traditional family values. Millions of viewers watched the family through reality television, believing they were witnessing an example of stability and wholesome living in a chaotic modern world. But after the scandals exploded into public view, that image began collapsing piece by piece under intense media scrutiny and online investigation. And once public trust disappeared, it never fully returned. The fallout extended far beyond one television show. The cancellation of Duggar-related projects marked the end of what had once been one of reality television's most recognizable family empires. Networks faced growing criticism over how much they knew, how reality television handles controversial families, and whether entertainment companies sometimes prioritize ratings over accountability. At the same time, social media dramatically changed the way scandals like this were discussed. Unlike earlier celebrity controversies controlled mostly by television networks and magazines, the Duggar scandal unfolded in real time across YouTube, Reddit, TikTok, podcasts, and commentary channels. Thousands of internet creators began analyzing interviews, public statements, courtroom developments, and old television footage frame by frame. Entire online communities formed around documenting contradictions, discussing family dynamics, and debating responsibility. For many viewers, the story evolved into something much larger than reality TV gossip. It became part true crime discussion, part media analysis, and part cultural debate about power, religion, secrecy, and image management. The rise of commentary channels played a massive role in keeping the story alive long after mainstream headlines faded. Some creators focused on investigative timelines and court updates. Others criticized the family's public messaging or explored the broader culture surrounding ultra-conservative reality television families. And with every new interview or public appearance, speculation reignited once again. Meanwhile, several younger Duggar family members appeared to slowly distance themselves from parts of the family's original public identity. Some became noticeably quieter online. Others adopted different lifestyles, gave carefully worded interviews, or avoided discussing certain controversies altogether. That silence itself became a source of public fascination. Viewers constantly searched for clues about possible divisions inside the family, wondering who remained loyal to the old image, who disagreed privately, and who simply wanted to escape the spotlight entirely after years of public scrutiny. But because the family rarely addressed internal conflicts directly, internet speculation only continued growing. For critics, the scandal exposed what they believed were dangerous problems hidden beneath highly controlled public images. For supporters, it became a painful example of a family collapsing under worldwide scrutiny and relentless media attention. Either way, the Duggar controversy changed reality television culture permanently. Audiences became more skeptical of perfect family branding. Viewers began questioning how much reality shows actually reveal and how much they intentionally hide. Producers and networks faced increasing pressure to examine the ethics of turning deeply private family lives into entertainment franchises. And even years later, public fascination with the Duggar story still hasn't disappeared. Because to many people, the scandal represents more than just one controversial family. It became a larger conversation about fame, authority, religion, accountability, media manipulation, and the hidden consequences of growing up inside a reality television empire watched by millions around the world. For years, the world watched the Duggar family as a symbol of faith, discipline, and traditional family values. Their television empire seemed untouchable, built on carefully controlled appearances, public devotion, and the belief that their way of life represented something admirable and stable. But as scandals surrounding Josh Duggar continued to unfold, that image slowly collapsed in front of millions of viewers. What began as a reality television success story eventually transformed into one of the most controversial family scandals in modern entertainment history. The public debate surrounding Jim Bob Duggar and Michelle Duggar remains intense even today. Some critics argue the controversy exposed the dangers of protecting reputation over accountability, claiming the family focused too heavily on preserving their public image, while serious issues were growing behind the scenes. Others believe the situation reflects a much larger conversation involving religious culture, family hierarchy, forgiveness, and the pressure to maintain unity no matter the cost. Across social media, documentaries, commentary channels, and online forums, people continue debating the same difficult questions. Could the outcome have been prevented? Did fame make the situation worse? And how much responsibility belongs to the family structure itself? At the center of it all is the reality that the Duggar brand, once presented as a model American family, may never recover from the damage caused by years of controversy, media scrutiny, and public distrust. Even younger members of the family have gradually stepped away from the spotlight, while former fans continue reevaluating the television empire they once supported. And despite years passing since the first headlines emerged, fascination with the Duggar story has never completely disappeared. Because for many viewers, the story became more than celebrity gossip. It became a warning about image, power, secrecy, and the consequences of placing public reputation above transparency. Whether people view the family with sympathy, criticism, or disappointment, one thing remains undeniable. The Duggar family's carefully constructed public image was changed forever. With that said, thanks for watching. And until next time,